There's nothing without suffering. Even if you're passionate, even if you're talented, there will be struggles. Name any successful person, and I'm sure within 5 minutes we can find their struggles online, especially if they're honest and they try to help people. They will share those, they won't hide it.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah, and I am a co-active life coach as well as the host for MindPod. This is a place where I will be bringing interesting human beings to explore an idea. There is no right, no wrong, just browsing. So let's see what we can stir up. Our guest today is Alan Abbas, who is an operations leader at Amazon that loves to get the best out of himself and empower others to do the same. So let's invite him in. Hi Alan.
Hi Sarah, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
All good, all good. It's 2 a.m. here in Vancouver, so excited to do this.
Yeah, thank you for joining at this time.
No worries, I'm on the night shift schedule, so this is my regular office hours.
Great, okay. So today with Alan, we're going to be covering what it means to be a man for career and society. What's men's focus today when choosing a career?
And what people's focuses are at the moment, I think there's a lot of hype about some high visibility but not very impactful careers, like being a YouTuber, trading stocks, some things that look very good in the movies, and we learn about them from the movies, but we don't actually know. Like that being a lawyer, for example, 95% of the time you're reading. The courtroom drama is it's a fraction of what you'll do. But on the movies, it seems like that's every day you go and you have these intense discussions. So I think we're naturally choosing careers based on what we know. And a lot of what we know is coming from pop culture and movies. And I don't think that's the best way to do it. But I was also thinking about it that way at the time because I didn't know any better. I do think we have a lot more opportunities because the gatekeepers have dissolved 20 years ago. Wherever you wanted to go, whether it's finance, you needed to go through a bank. Whether it's TV, you needed to go through a studio. If it's anything, any kind of corporation, you needed someone to accept you. However, with the internet, as you can see, this is a great example. You switched on the camera, you decided to interview people, and there's no permission you needed from anyone. Just needed to make the YouTube account. So I feel like the gatekeepers in all industries are dissolving, which means the opportunities by definition are magnitudes more, which comes with a lot of benefits, but also it comes with the paralysis analysis or the paradox of choice. The more choices you have, the harder it is to choose, and the more regret you have from the opportunity cost that you lost. So it's good, a lot of opportunities, but how we think about them and how we find the right one for us is the gap that I noticed, that I experienced personally, and I notice most people are getting stuck at or making the wrong decisions at.
So when you say making the wrong decisions, what does that look like?
Great question. So making the wrong decision is being forced to decide the rest of your life at age 16, 17, 18, 19, which is the time we're expected to decide on a university and go through with it. There's no point in the process where we get asked what's our passion, what are the things you're good at, what are the things that make you feel alive. And if we start working backwards from that, I think we're going to be more likely to find careers that also match some of your passions. I'm not saying 100%. I'm really passionate about talent identification and development. So a lot of what I do relates to that, but doesn't mean it's the only thing I do. It's only 10 or 20% of my job. And going back a decade and trying to just decide on what I wanted to do, I didn't even know it at the time. So sometimes you just have to start and pivot. So with every year, you make decisions that get you closer. They reduce the amount of things you hate and increase the amount of things you love in your job. So it's every year we pivot, and I can't tell you I'm doing my passion right now, but for sure I can tell you I'm doing more things I love than last year. And this applies for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So I'm getting closer and closer and closer. So I think that's a practical way of doing it. Look at what you do. Out of the 15, 20, 30 things every job has, I'm sure you hate some of them and you love some of them. Start doing more of what you love and less of what you hate. And if you get good enough at it, nobody's going to say no. If you're getting really good at, let's say you're an HR manager and you're passionate about learning Excel and development and programming, go ahead, start doing it, get good at it. No one's going to say no. You can add value to the business with the things you love. If you're more interested in out of HR and interviewing, you can also lean heavy into that. And as time passes, your job will transform to that, or you'll be more suited for opportunities that are more aligned with your passions. If we were to come up with a practical approach, I would say don't try to just magically one day quit everything and join your passion. There's practical considerations, there's jobs we have, so we can try to leverage them and pivot slowly so we get closer to what we want.
What I'm hearing is that if you found something in the later stages of your life, when you've already gotten a degree for something that you now know wasn't fit for you, then you can always start somewhere and start building. But I've also seen people who would say, oh, actually, it's too late for me to start. When you want to start something new, it's always uncomfortable and you're going to have to put extra effort. So those people who are willing to put that extra effort in making more exciting experience for themselves, I feel like that's the difference between someone who would find a path and someone who may just get stuck in what they do.
There's always something you can do, and it always takes effort. Like you said, nothing's going to magically happen. And it's not only effort. Effort a lot of people can do, but facing the struggle and facing failures and facing nobody gives a crap about what you're doing and keep doing it, keep improving, that's the challenge. And it's the suffering. If you're willing to suffer and keep working, you will achieve great things. If you're not tolerant to that, then you will not achieve anything. It's that simple. There's nothing without suffering. Even if you're passionate, even if you're talented, there will be struggles. Name any successful person, and I'm sure within 5 minutes we can find their struggles online, especially if they're honest and they try to help people. They will share those, they won't hide it.
Absolutely. What about men who have still not landed on a job? If they are struggling to find a job, if they are losing motivation in those things, have you gone through that, and what have you done in order to get to where you are today?
Luckily, I haven't had to job hunt much. My first job out of university was the job I'm doing now, even though I left for a few years and came back. So I didn't have to hunt for a job as much as I needed to just build connections and maintain them. And that's always the better alternative. Job hunting is plan B when you're not able to find a job the right way, because the job market is inefficient and ineffective. Inefficient because on average you need 550 applications to get an offer. This is not efficient. Imagine any pursuit in the world where it takes you 550 times to get a result. Let's say you need to go to the gym for 550 times to get, that's too much. You need to try to invest 550 times to get one success. It's too much. So how come job applications, it's normal? Or if someone says, oh, I applied to 10 jobs, that's not nearly enough. Obviously, they don't have a job. So keep that in mind. Step number one, don't take it personally. The job market structurally is inefficient and ineffective. The inefficiency I explained, the ineffectiveness is because regardless how perfect your resume is, the job market is not able to provide you the job that matches it directly. There's always compromises. There's always, you need to game the system. You need to put in certain keywords. You need to act a certain way. And so in conclusion, job hunting in the traditional sense is ineffective and inefficient. And if you do pursue that path, you have to keep that in mind, because getting 549 rejections out of 550 is not easy on any ego or any character, no matter how resilient and strong you are. Every rejection is a bruise on the ego. No matter how healthy your mental processes are and how confident you are, it is a rejection. Someone has looked at everything you've done in your life on one page and said, not good enough. So yeah, it is a very taxing process, and people are not able to stay in it long term because it really taxes them. So before I give advice for the job market, my first step would be try to avoid it. How many people do you know in your life? 10, 20, 30, 40? Guess what? That's 20, 30, 40, 50 companies that you have a connection with. And Sarah, if you remember in your last company, you were able to help set up my friends with the job. And this is not a one-time thing. This is exactly how we all get jobs. We look at our networks. You build trust with your network. You're not a random person. You have projects, you went out with people, they know your character enough to actually help you get a job at their company. And I think that's the best way to go about it. Like, it's, what do you think of that approach?
Right. So I absolutely agree with you. I feel like everything that's around you, whether it be people or things or any platform, they're all opportunities, and it's up to you to pick that up or not. However, men in particular, what I've seen is they have a problem asking people. It's not easy for them to ask or request or, owe them. So, how do they get out of that mentality for their benefit? Or what's stopping them? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
A great question, and I may not be fully qualified to answer it, but I'll give it my best shot. Asking for help, also on a deep psychological level, is I couldn't do it, and I need someone outside myself to help me succeed. So even that had a small egotistical tax you need to pay. And if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, it's easier to avoid it and try to be an independent, self-sufficient man or woman. But that's not the right way to live as a human. Humans are social creatures from day one. Literally from the first day we're born here, no matter what you believe, whether it's religious Adam and Eve, or whether evolution, you started as a fish and your first friends were fishes and sharks. You are social creatures. You prosper, whether it's your village, your community, your family. There's always social structures. We don't move independently. We're not lone wolves. So you have to make peace with that and realize it's not you asking for help. It's a collaborative effort. You and me together. Today you help me get a job. Tomorrow I can maybe help you in your investment. And that's how you should think about it, in a healthy way. You shouldn't keep score, but you shouldn't take it personally that it's a down or a low point that you ask for help. And that's how I think about it. And the more I ask for help and receive it, the more I realize, A, people are amazing if you give them a chance. And sometimes we don't give them a chance. And B, you can achieve so much more with people. And that's why I love leadership, because I cannot do any of the things that my team does. And individually, you couldn't do it. But together, we can ship 1 million items a week, literally. Like, that's crazy to me.
Absolutely. I look around my house and I look at all the products that's around here and I start thinking about, okay, so someone has thought of this, someone has invented this, someone's created a factory to manufacture this, and then someone's transported this to me. I mean, this is all connections with people that you've never ever seen in your life.
I was just going to ask, how do you think about asking for help? Do you see it as a person needs more to exist, therefore they're not complete? Or do you think of it more of a collaborative effort? I support you today, you support me tomorrow, kind of thing. And, that's how we live. That's fundamental to our nature as humans. And that's how we survived so many years and we continue to thrive.
I think it's a collaboration because without someone inventing a laptop, we wouldn't have had this conversation. You're all the way in Canada and I'm in Dubai. So people's inventions, people's hard work has definitely tied to other people's opportunities.
Are you comfortable asking for help?
Yes. Let's say people say no or they don't get back to you when you ask for help. Again, that's not something to take personal. Some people are maybe not in a good place. They have their own life, they have their thing going, and they're just not in the right place to help you out. Doesn't make that person bad, doesn't make that person reject you. So I don't take it personally. I try to understand them, and those who help me out, I just simply appreciate them and try to be there when they need something and see if I can be a part of help. Because sometimes, no matter how much I want to help that person, I don't have the skills or assets to do that, you know. But I think what's important here is the willingness of, yes, count on me if you need help.
You raised a very good point. People are kind. You need to give them a chance to help you. And it's not fair if you don't give your friends a chance. I'm struggling, let's say, financially. I need $10,000. It's not fair that I don't even ask you and give you a chance to support me, because you might be a kind person that actually loves to help people, and your passion in life is to support your friends. It's not fair if I don't give you a chance. So the only advice I would have aside from that is not to have expectations. Ask for help, but ask it in a way that you don't put pressure on the other person. Neither do you expect anything in return. So that's also a skill that's developed through time, but I think it's really important to give people a chance without giving them an expectation and pressure to help. And it's a very subtle thing to do, and I'm still learning how to do it, but when it's done to me, I really appreciate it. And the way you can get more help is anyone that helps you, write it down, appreciate it, and pay them back 1,000 times fold throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, agreed. What's the impression of today's men for generations before us?
It's a tough one, but it's a really good question. And these tough questions are the ones that sometimes it's hard to get an answer when you ask it once and twice and three times, but continue to ask it because you're asking the right questions, even if I'm not able to answer them. With my perception is the older generations, from their young age until they retired, things didn't change that much. So the smallest example, when me and you were in primary school, let's say, versus where we are now, all the technology shifted. Just the idea of a podcast 20 years ago was impossible. Like two people talking face to face, but one is in Dubai, was in Vancouver. So what that results is people are more adaptable now, adaptable to change, and that's something we didn't have back then. So sometimes it's perceived as the older generation might think you're not committed because you changed your job 3 times in the last 5 years. However, it's not about commitment. It's about being adaptable. Things are changing a lot faster now, and that's the skill. It's not the strong that survive. It is those who adapt. It's something Darwin said, but I think it applies to each one of us. The more flexible you are, the more versatile, the more you can change what you have, the more you can thrive. And that's something the older generation, not through any fault of their own, but they did not have to do it. You were born, there's no internet. You didn't see what a million people were doing with their free time. And you were born to an accountant, and you thought that's the best thing. You got trained as an accountant, and you try to live the rest of your lives as an accountant, and that's normal. So I think the differences in the rate of change between the younger and older generations result in very wrapped perceptions on how we should be behaving. And again, the successful older generation, like for example, Gary Vee is in his 40s, yet he understands social media and TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat better than all the people from age 15 to 30. So adaptability is a trait we can learn and we can improve. And my advice to anyone above 40 listening to this is if you work on that, just ask yourself, when's the last time I changed my mind about something? And if you can't remember the answer, that means you're not adapting.
That's a great question to ask yourself. Have you asked yourself that?
Oh yeah, so many times. In fact, I changed my mind a lot about things, too much. Some people see it as a negative thing.
So I want to ask you, Alan, as a man, what are the most used phrases that you've heard of?
So gender specific phrases that are told to men usually.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what really pisses me off? People mistaking physical strength for emotional strength. Just because someone can deadlift a lot of weight has no correlation to how well they can handle a heartbreak. It's absolutely like two different things. Men in general do have biologically more physical strength than women, and that doesn't mean they can handle the same things. Women have a much, much healthier and stronger uh, emotional framework to identify the emotions. That's something men can do. Do you know how many people cannot tell the difference between being hungry and being angry?
Yeah, it's not called hangry.
We call it that because we can distinguish it.
Okay.
But if you're a lady and you know I am hungry versus I am not even angry, you can even go further. I am feeling frustrated. I'm feeling left out. I'm feeling violated. Like there's a lot more than just angry. But men, a lot of the people I grew up with, at least, emotional awareness was not a thing. If you didn't like, do you feel good or bad? That's about it. I think it can go a lot more than that if you start reflecting, and that's how you can address the problems that you face.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because when I'm coaching people, we tap into mental, emotional, physical, everything. And usually when I ask the clients to elaborate how they're feeling or how this experience make you react, the response is usually it's good, it's bad, And then I ask, so good in what way? Good in the sense of excited, good in the sense of peaceful, good in the sense of happy, good in the sense of freedom. So there's so many ways to express what's good, what's bad.
Yeah, and we don't have that. Men, there's no part of our educational curriculum, whether it's the formal education from university and school or the informal through our parents. There's exceptions. If you have a very emotionally aware sister slash mother slash girlfriend early on, they do tend to help in coaching with these things and they improve a lot. And that's if there's, I'm nowhere where I need to be, but if there's any improvement in my life in terms of emotions, it happened because of the woman I was surrounded by that had the patience and sympathy to say, Alan, calm down for a bit. I don't think you're angry. I think you're just regretful. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, how do you even know? Wait, what do you mean? And then she starts explaining, you're regretful because you didn't take that job because blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, where are you reading this from? Like, how do you, like, teach me, how do I figure this stuff out? Because the moment you hear it, you might think, oh my God, that is true, or, it's not. So, and therapy helps with that too. That's what therapists are. They're coaches for your emotions. They don't tell you what to feel. They help you identify and put a label on it, and then later take action.
So, what else are you asked often because you're a man?
Marriage, kids, and maybe because I looked a little bit older when I was in my early 20s. Basically, I looked the same from age like 20 to 30, and I'm probably going to look the same because when you don't have hair, there's no visual indicator that you're losing your hair when you lost it all. So always, especially with family and anyone that smells a little bit of stability and success, their next question is, oh, when are you going to get married? Why don't we rephrase that and ask, what do you think about marriage first, before we assume that that's the natural progression of things? And it very well may be, and it might be my plan, but it just rubs me the wrong way, and I don't like to participate in that conversation where you're putting certain goals that you may have on someone else. You have to always open it up, asking, what do I want? And it's not something that upsets me, but it's something that I do take that question and I do exactly respond the same way I just did. And it becomes a very fruitful discussion. So why not?
Yeah. I mean, not everyone's going to get married. Maybe they don't want to get married. Or maybe they can't. What if you tap into that?
Yes, and imagine how painful it is if you repeat you can't for biological or whatever reason, and people keep asking and asking. Or if it's a married couple and you keep asking about, when are you going to have kids? That should not be your first question. First question should be, what do you think about kids? Or, yeah, and then take it from
Exactly.
there.
Yeah. So, what do you think men need in terms of the mental health?
A lot, a lot. No podcast can contain the amount of gaps that an average male, especially in a non-first world country, is lacking. And half the problems the world is facing, including war, famine, economic depression, half of it is because of men not being emotionally aware, actually. Have you seen Trump for 10 minutes? This is a very emotionally unaware man that's literally ruining the world. This is the situation on a smaller scale every single day. Not only presidents, but bosses, colleagues, husbands, supervisors. So it's crazy to me that it's not part of our education. There's this YouTube channel I've been watching, School of Life, and honestly, just watching a few videos there is opening my eyes to so many gaps I had. It's a philosopher that does the videos, but it's all on mental slash emotional gaps, very short videos. One of them, for example, is how to love yourself.
Mm.
We all say it's important, but how do you actually, like, what do I do? Like, I love myself. It's not clear to me until I watch that video. And now I know exactly. And I know exactly when I'm not loving myself. I know the kind of thoughts that don't further that goal. So, yeah, we need to do a lot, but it all starts with the awareness that it's hard, because if you're not aware, like, if you
How do you
don't
start?
value, yeah, like, how do you know that you're lacking? Sometimes you need someone to pinch you, or you need someone that you trust to tell you, hey, uh, dude, you don't even know what you're feeling. You're just sad all the time, and you don't even realize you're depressed, I think. Oh, so what should I do? I don't know, but I'm just telling you, you should do something about it.
Right.
I wouldn't have the conversation that way, but you need, um, I guess the responsibility is on all of us when we realize one of our friends is lacking in a very, um, or not lacking, a better word would be they would benefit greatly from having a little more emotional awareness. We should let them know, and we should support them in getting it done. And it's not that complicated. Not everyone can afford therapy, but I think everyone can access YouTube. I think everyone can talk to someone. Everyone can be a little vulnerable and just go to a lady or a female or a male who's emotionally aware and just chat with them for a few minutes and set up one thing that they can do the next day. It could be as simple as, when I wake up, I'm gonna take 5 seconds to think what I feel. So I'm not feeling great, or I'm feeling anxious, or like, and it might be hard to answer it first, but after 5, 10, 20 times, you're going to start identifying a little bit more about what the feelings mean. And
Mm.
eventually, for someone like you, for example, who's been doing that for a decade or two since you were younger, it's obvious. You don't need to think. When you feel it, okay, I hate that this happened because of this. But for someone who's not aware, it's very slow process. You need to literally ask, how am I feeling? And then you may not have an answer the first 20 times. And then slowly you'll be like, okay, at least I know if it's good or bad. And then the next step is like you asked, okay, good in what way? Is it peaceful, positive, excited, happy? And yeah, I don't have the framework, but I'm just sharing my experience because I'm going through this um, right now, or the last few years, and will continue to go through it because I think the next phase of our lives depend a lot more on that than on technical skills and degrees. So I think that should be the focus.
Yeah. Um, I'm really happy that you're going through this journey, and I can even sense the work you've put from the way you speak about it. So, what have you gained so far since you started this journey?
I've gained more peace because I know the things I tolerate and the things I don't. And I know the people I tolerate, the people I don't. Like 5 years ago, if someone rubs me the wrong way, I might slowly distance myself from them. And at the time, it was fine to do that. But now I have a much healthier approach that I question exactly what it is that made me feel that way about them? Is it something inherent to them? For example, they're a pathological liar. Or is it something incompetency in me? I feel less because that person has much more accomplishments. And when you start diving in, you realize very quickly whether you need to cut that person out of your life or you need to work on yourself because that reaction is not justified. That helped me make better decisions and clearer communication. If I'm not able to talk to you, I'll tell you very, very directly. Hey, Sarah, the values you and I share are no longer like it was 10 years ago, and I don't feel like having you in my life is beneficial to myself, and I don't think I can be the friend that you need. And out of respect for you, I'm not just gonna pretend or, you know, out of respect for you, I want to tell you that, you know, I'm more comfortable keeping a little more distance.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. There's a list I have in my notes now of 2 or 3 people that I need to write letters to, because years ago I stopped talking to them through no fault of my own. They did things that I didn't tolerate, but I didn't communicate it, and that's on me. It's on us to communicate what we feel and why we take certain actions, and that brought me a lot more peace because it's very certain.
I can see that you have a lot of clarity in what you want, what you don't want. You know what you want to say, you know what you want to express, and in a manner that's very respectful, you know. So rather than you getting into a fight because you don't know what you're feeling and you're just angry and you're like, oh, you know what? This person is the problem and I'm just going to walk away. Rather than doing that, you would want to face that person, be honest, be clear about your message with the intention of not harming them, but being honest to yourself.
100%. And a very small example that went the other way, my manager at work gave me a small piece of feedback. It was very minor. I accepted it respectfully. Thank you, sir. I'll work on it. But on the drive home, I was upset. I was like, there's something wrong. Why do I feel this way? And it took me a few days. I kept it on the back of my mind when I was working out. I brought it back and started thinking about it. And I realized the reason I was upset is nothing to do with the person. It's because I had a certain vision of who I was. And that thing I wasn't doing, like I should have caught it. I was just ashamed that he had to come and let me know, hey, do this the other way. So my negative feelings were a reflection of my own gap. And a difference is 5 years ago, that wasn't obvious. So I might have taken it against him. Hey, why are you talking to me like that? Actually, no, it's his job. Your boss's job is to correct you when you go wrong. And if you feel upset, you should reflect. And sometimes the reflection results in conclusion that perhaps that conversation was not done respectfully. Perhaps that person overstepped his boundary. Perhaps, you know, so it can go either way, but the reflection is important to better your reaction. And something that takes me 6 days to reflect upon, someone else might do it in 3 minutes. Someone else might never do it. So it's not a race, but I'm working on getting better at it.
Yeah, I think everyone has different pace, and that's okay. You know, it doesn't mean you're incapable. It just means maybe you started somewhere and you're gonna end somewhere else when that person had started this journey a long time ago and now they've got a hang of it. How much of tradition should men honor in 2020?
Great question, and a very difficult one, like most of your questions have been. But these are the questions we need to ask. The easy questions are easy for a reason. I haven't made up my mind about traditions because I see them around me, and I come from a mixed marriage where I have 2 cultures, and each of them have a different religion. So I have an Arabic Christian culture on one side and a Kurdish Muslim culture on the other. And I see traditions and I don't see the value in them. I find that they're good if you don't know what you're doing, and they're good if you're lost in life. Sure, go with the traditions because that will give you the minimum required to be a human being. But I think yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that who you are today as a man has a lot to do with where you come from.
Of course.
Mm.
Of course, and no matter how much I say traditions are not important or we don't need to follow them, but of course they shaped a lot of who I am today. But I feel like I got lucky because the tradition I have is mixed and it has the best out of four, out of two religions and two cultures, and a lot of pain and struggle. Like both the cultures I come from don't have a country until this moment. The people in Syria and Kurdistan is not a country, and Syria, if it is a country, if we call that a country, it'd be the crappiest country on earth. Not in terms of what it offers, but in terms of the unfortunate situation you will be in if you're born there. So the unluckiest thing you can have as a human being is to be born in Syria or one of the other 10 places that literally destroy any chance you have of fulfilling your life. Um, so I think I got lucky, and the people I see that are come from one culture and stick to one tradition, I don't see them prospering and flourishing until they develop their own vision and they start, disconnecting from the culture. So maybe culture and tradition can take us, let's say, until your early 20s, until you establish your basics and you know how to, be a regular human being, but it cannot take you to fulfillment to age 30, 40, 50, 60, making millions, changing the world. It's tough. I don't know. It's You tell me.
Yeah. So then, if traditions are not adding value, what can add value for men?
There's a few facts in life that guide me. Number one is I'm way dumber than I think, and that's the reason I ask a lot of questions. And when I do ask them, I have a very crazy theme, which is called "shut up and listen," and that's something I was not able to do until very recently. And literally, when I go into a one-on-one, so one-on-one with my reportee, not with my boss, the first note I write after the date is SUAL. Shut up and listen. Literally, shut up and listen. Because as you can see, the moment you say something, my mind, I already want to say something. I already want to ask questions. So to me, to shut up and listen is the only way I can learn more. Like by the way, when we're talking, we never learn. There's absolutely zero learning when a person is talking. You only learn when you're listening. So I think just reminding yourself how little you know and as smart as you think you are, everything you know is less than 0.1% of the knowledge or of the internet or of books. So it's so insignificant that even the smartest person in the world knows comparatively nothing compared to society. So yeah, it's hard not to ask questions. It's hard not to learn from everyone, because every single person has something to teach you. Even the worst leader in the world, when he was my manager, I learned how not to do things. And I know the impact of how you can demotivate marvelous people by just saying the wrong thing. Or so even a bad husband, a bad boyfriend, a bad girlfriend, they're all lessons that all you have to do is SUL. Shut up and listen. And you'll learn it.
Our body is made in a way where we can multitask, right? And there are things that we don't think when we do it. For example, like breathing. That's something that's automatically done. But then when it comes to paying attention, you need to tune that energy, whether it be visual or whether it be something that you have to listen to. So being able to pay attention, I feel, is very important. And now there are more and more people who have ADHD, or people are being diagnosed with ADHD.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a struggle for those people. But also, we all kind of have a little bit of ADHD in us, right?
It's a product of our environment. Like,
Yeah. So how can we kind of tackle that when we're like not able to concentrate?
pick up any book that sounds interesting, lock yourself in a room till you finish it. We don't have the attention span to listen because we're not trained on that. Everything is happening in milliseconds. Every notification is a second. Every video is 15 seconds. This is short-circuiting our brains, and you have to counteract that actively. If you go with the flow, going with the flow, you don't read books. Normal people are not forced to read books, and to the difference between looking at one Instagram post and reading the equivalent of 1,000 Instagram posts on one topic, that's gonna be the way to increase your attention span. But before that, you have to just be aware that everyone has something to teach you. If you're not aware of that, why should you even listen to people?
Yeah. And I think you found one traditional thing that we should still honor, which is reading books.
Yeah, I guess you are right. And some traditions, now that you mention it, like honesty and respecting your elders, and there are some things that, yeah, they might not make you millions, but at least you are a decent human being, and that's arguably more important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Alan, for joining me today. This was great.
Likewise, thank you for your time and your tough questions. I know sometimes asking the tough questions may not immediately result in the returns, but keep asking them and ask to many people. And by the way, great listening skills. There was a few times I was waiting for you to talk, but you, SUAL, very well. And I think that is like not something new. I know that's how you are, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. What are your thoughts on career and society for men? Until next time, bye-bye.